Brooklyn Independent Television.
And now, let's check out Maison Premiere with Caroline Shin.
This is Maison Premiere, serving up that special pairing of oysters and absinthe and a taste of New Orleans. I'm here with co-owner Joshua Boise, who's going to give us the inside look.
Let's go and check it out.
Let's go.
So the concept for Maison Premiere came from the oyster saloons of America. Turn of the century, early 1900s in New York, there were tons of little bars that were called oyster saloons. And so they were tiny little taverns that had a nice little oyster menu that would go with the ales. And the Hudson and East River were at that time loaded with oysters, so it was one of those things that was pretty common. And so some of our history dated back to the original oyster taverns in New York. And then there was this other part of the story, which was New Orleans and the history of New Orleans and the architecture and the French inspiration which came into play with building out the entire space. There's a little bit about the place that you would probably recognize from some of the cafes in Paris, the Horseshoe Bar, the pink marble. So those are some of the elements that started to lay the foundation for what became this kind of French-inspired American tavern.
So could you tell me about the artwork here?
Sure, we have this one painting that I really like, which to me is really symbolic of all the research and history of New Orleans, and that's of Napoleon. It's an original oil painting from the late 1800s, and the Napoleon House restaurant and bar was built in the 1700s for him to exile and receive him, which he obviously never made it, which is now one of the oldest bars and restaurants in the United States. The interior of the bath is basically a replica of some of the bathrooms you'd find on old steamboats in Mississippi and New Orleans. So this is an exact replica of what the bathroom would have looked like. The sink actually came from an old steamship in the 1890s. And we had to find some antique restoration workers who specialize in antique plumbing. It was a 2 to 3 year process from start to finish of hunting down everything and restoring everything. So one of the items that we replicated was this because we felt it was going to be our centerpiece and so important to the absinthe story that we were trying to bring back to life. We purposely made it the centerpiece of the bar so everyone understood what our main focus was, and that was absinthe and absinthe cocktails. This is a soapstone base. In terms of the body of the statue here, it's the green jade marble, it's Italian marble, and then there's a bronze Napoleon figure on top, which was actually created by the same sculptor that sculpted the ones for the Napoleon House. The spouts are brass, and then there's a medallion for decoration. Wasn't an easy process, but today it's working, and it's our centerpiece for our absinthe program, so we're really excited about it.
I see that you also have a very old-timey wardrobe. Where did that come from?
I really wasn't into wardrobe too much until Maison Premiere opened, and then we realized the impact that it had on the community and on New York. And I think it's important to understand who we are and what we're doing here. And part of that is bringing back this kind of American lifestyle of dressing up and taking pride in the way that you look and the way that you go out and the way that you consume. And so the wardrobe for me, especially as the owner of Maison Premiere, was to set the standard for who we are and what we do. And we go to work with bow ties and we wear suspenders and we have handmade hats. We really care about where our clothes come from and our products come from. And so I felt that it was a really good sign of who we were for me to represent the brand.
So, what exactly is absinthe?
Absinthe is it's a very historic spirit to Europe and the U.S. It was first developed as a medicinal recipe in Switzerland and went commercial in France. It's a neutral grape, neutral grain, or neutral beet spirit. It has to have wormwood, fennel, lemon balm, hyssop. Absinthe cannot have any sugar, extracts, coloring, or oils. It must be all natural.
Let's try making some absinthe.
Yeah, let's do it. We're going to use the Delaware Phoenix absinthe. This is from upstate New York. That's good. Yeah. Okay. It's a little bit high, but it's not too bad.
All right.
So I'll take this one over here. So as you can see right here, the sugar cube has already been dissolved. So I'm going to start this one over here. All right, so these are finished. Here we go. In these cafes, they would print the prices of the absinthe on the plates. And so when you had another absinthe, they would stack the plates.
Oh, okay.
And so as you drank more over the afternoon, your plates would get higher and higher. And so that way, you don't really have to keep track so much of like what you owe. One of our most popular absinthe cocktails at Maison Premiere is the Imperial Opal. For this cocktail, we use the Tennyson, which is a French Blanche. We are going to do 1.25 ounces of the Tennyson. Next ingredient is a Spanish anisette called chinchon. half an ounce of yellow chartreuse, half an ounce of a rich simple syrup, and then 1 ounce of water. We're going to add some ice, drops of rose flower water over the top, squeeze some lemon oil right over the top, and that's the Imperial Opal.
I'm here with Christoph Ziska, who's going to show me how to shuck oysters.
It took me a while to learn about oysters, how to open them, because I would be like using all my strength to open oysters. That was the hinge there that we opened the oyster. So now this is the top shell here. So cut the adductor muscle, and then the shell's just going to come off. Oysters change every season, during the season, so they change a lot in taste. What's really cool, you can see there's a lot of liquor. We're always looking for, of course, the shell. We like the shell to be really hard. We're looking for liquor, the juice of the oyster, and the meat of the oyster. That's what I'm looking for every day. Then we're going to just put the knife underneath and to cut the bottom part of the adductor muscle.
I'm going to go for it. I'm going to try to shuck an oyster.
Just diving right in for it. So you're going to get the hinge here. Try to put it down a little bit more if you can. Just toggle it back and forth with the knife. So you go in, and then you're almost there. You're like so close. There you go. See how easy that was? Wipe the knife down a little bit because you're getting a little bit of shell, and then you're going to cut across the top shell there and cut the abductor off. But there you go. You just shucked a perfect oyster.
Cheers!
Cheers!
Follow us on Twitter at BK Independent TV.